Heyo, here we go again. Obviously, this isn't the first take, but what are you going to do? I should be used to this by now. So, I'm just going to start over here. I've got two patches here of the PX7. Let me give a quick overview before I show you guys what we're going to be doing today. I just want to tell you about how these next two videos are going to work. So, the first video, which we're going to do right now, call it part one of the FM synthesis talk bass theory. This is going to be more about the theory of FM synthesis and how to use it to make modern EDM basses, which are, I think, going out of style at this point. But it's good to know the theory because you can apply this kind of stuff anywhere else in your music production. So yeah, so in part one I'm going to talk about the theory, and in part two I'm going to show you how to do this inside of Thor. We're going to apply the theory that we learned in part one to a more flexible, more sonically open kind of synthesizer, and really it's just so that we can apply what we learn here anywhere else we want. So I think that'll be really useful if we start in an FM synthesizer like the PX7, which is modeled after probably the most famous FM synthesizer ever, the DX7, and then we take what we learned here and recreate it in a synth that wasn't designed to do that. So if you've watched any of my other videos before, you'll know that I did these FM synth basses that were really more subtractive because we were using filters to do the talk vowel movement. So what makes these videos different is that we're going to be doing real true FM synthesis, so no filters to add or subtract the overtones, also known as partials and harmonics, which define the timbre of our sound. And if you don't remember, timbre is what makes my voice sound different from your voice, which makes the C note on a piano sound different from the C note on a flute. That's how we think about timbre. So let me preview these sounds for you, these two FM synthesis patches, and then we'll get into it. I'll just show you how to do it really, really quick. They're really easy to make, and it's really more about the theory here so that next time we can apply it to Thor. Just watch me play with a couple parameters, see how they affect the sound. But don't worry, we will get into all of this real soon. So here's just a quick preview. Make it a little brighter. Change the color. Put it on mono, it's a bass patch. Make this a fixed harmonic point. Alright, that was patch one. Sorry if that went on a little long. Just wanted to show how you can change the sound a little bit. And here's patch two using a different algorithm, as I'll explain in a second. Change this to fixed. So those are two pretty different sounding patches created with the same synth using the same exact theory, and there's a million more possibilities that we can do. So let's get into this. I'm just going to kind of minimize all this stuff. and we'll start from scratch. Okay, so where all this stuff comes from is basically the original Tag-Heuer base, which is basically where we load in any old synthesizer with any old wave, and we get a high resonance filter with some bit crush distortion. Put it about there. And when we modulate the filter here, LFO 1, filter 1 frequency, forgot to put this on digital. So with a little tweaking there, I got it. I haven't done that in a long time. So if we look at this movement happening with the wave here, move this out of the way, and we bring up Ableton's good old spectrum analyzer. We can kind of see, make this more drastic maybe. Slower. So if we watch this movement, we can see that the vowel comes from the fact that we have two opposing bands that kind of move away from and towards each other and meet in the middle. Right there. And where those bands meet, which in the classic bit crusher distortion is changed by the kind of the rate, as it's denoted here in the digital Scream 4 algorithm, the bit rate. Where those bands start to move to kind of determines the formant character of the mouth. So if we apply this line of thought to the PX7 or FM synthesis in general, then we can synthesize that same effect without the bit crush artifacts, and really the bit crush kind of talking isn't really flexible in the kind of timbres that you can achieve. So let's talk about the PX7 for a second before I show you how to do this. Basically, the PX7 is modeled after the most famous FM synth ever, or at least I'm pretty sure it's the most famous ever, the DX7, made by Yamaha, all over the 80s. So the way the PX7 works is that it works only with sine waves. This is a little limiting in the timbres that you can achieve, but it also forces you to get a little creative to get some new timbres, which is really great for learning and getting a grip on how this stuff actually works. So on the right hand side here we have an algorithm section, and there's 32 of them, and basically with these algorithms we determine how our operators, these not filled in boxes, I'm blanking on the word to call these, translucent, see-through boxes, not colored in boxes. The not colored in boxes are our modulators. And in FM synthesis, modulators modulate, or FM, frequency modulate, the operators, which is just a fancy way of saying oscillators. And every operator and modulator on the PX7 is a sine wave. And when we do FM, or frequency modulation, that's just a fancy way of saying we are changing the pitch of the operator with the modulator at a rate that is so fast that it actually shapes the wave and gives it harmonics or partials, or just changes the wave. It's like wave shaping. We're building our own waves. So if we wanted to create that same talk effect with these sine waves, what we're going to want to achieve is two ends of the frequency spectrum that modulate towards each other to create that peak in the middle that gives us the vowel movement. And the easiest way to do that is to create a sine wave at the bottom of the frequency spectrum and a sine wave at the top of the frequency spectrum. So to show you what that looks like, I'm going to have this sine wave down here. This is our main operator, our operator 1, and it's all the way at the bottom over here. And then on the left side of the PX7, we can choose the operator frequency. And frequency is a fancy way of saying pitch. So right now, operator 1 is just that whatever frequency we play on the keyboard. So if I play middle A, it's 440 hertz. And if I go down here, I'm in the sub range. These numbers are all relative. So 1 just means keyboard matched right onto whatever key you're playing on the keyboard. So right now I'm playing an F, and if I bring up the level of operator 3, all these levels is kind of like a little mixing console inside of the PX7. If I bring up the level of operator 3, now operator 3 is getting pushed through to the output, denoted by this box down here, but I'm going to change the pitch of operator 3. So now we have two sine waves. This is operator 3 right over here. So I'm going to bring this operator to the top of our frequency spectrum. So now the next thing that we're going to do is use this theory of having these two opposite points that get frequency modulated and then shoot together to meet in the middle to create the vowel. So to do this, we're actually only going to use operator 3 right here. So operator 3 is coming through on the bottom. And we're going to use operator 4, or modulator number 4, to FM operator 3. So the more I bring in operator 4, the more frequency modulation is happening to operator 3, the more partials and harmonics are being added to the wave. It's almost like a filter, a low-pass filter. So this is where the theory gets a little bit tricky, because if I use operator 5 to do the same thing, we don't hear anything. So why is that? That is because operator 5 is passing through operator 4, and operator 4 is at level 0. So it's not coming through. So these things work in a signal chain that 5 won't come through to 4 unless 4 is turned up. Now 5 right now, because we're working in a chain, is modulating operator 4 as well. So 5 into 4, 6 into 5 into 4, it's like one big frequency modulation chain. So what we want to do here to create the vowel is we want to move operator 5 to be our upper harmonic. So now we have operator 5 over here and operator 4 down here. And if I pull up, change the level of operator 4, we are dictating the FM amount of this whole chain. It's like a macro knob to determine the FM of all the operators that we're dealing with because they're in a chain together. So right off the bat, we're already creating some vowel movement. because we have an upper harmonic being FM'd with a lower harmonic and meeting in the middle. So if I want to have this movement happen automatically, I just go to my utilities, load in a pulsar, and hook it up to operator 4. And now from here I can determine how much these parameters are going down. So if I want my tone to be a little brighter, I just need to up operator 5 a little bit. So we also have a 6 operator here to shape our wave more. And what's cool about this 6 operator is that it can go into a feedback loop to just change the timbre more, add some more harmonics. It's like a form of distortion. So let's get that in the mix and see how that changes our tone. When we hit 87 about, our sound gets a little more grainy. We can add some distortion with the feedback. When the feedback hits 6, we get a little crunchiness like a saw wave. And if I change the frequency of this operator, then we can even change the timbre of the tone more. So there's another thing about the theory here that's important to understand, is that right now our operator 5 is keyboard matched to the keyboard, so that if we play higher up, a note higher up, our formant of the mouth changes. Now that's a cool effect. We might want that. But what if we wanted that formant to never change? We can fix the operator frequency so that it's not keyboard matched. And right now it's going to be hitting at 1,000 hertz. That's a little low for the valve movement, so we can fine adjust it, move it up. So now wherever we play on the keyboard, this operator will always be 1585. So I hope this is making a little bit of sense. So what if we wanted to use a different algorithm here to create, a totally different kind of tone? Because a different algorithm is going to be, drastically changing the way that these oscillators, modulators, operators, it's going to be drastically changing the way that all these things interact with each other. So let's find an algorithm that'll work similarly. 17 is looking real good. 17 is looking real good to match the theory that we just did, because we have one operator which is going to push everything through, and now we have the same 2 harmonics. Lower harmonic is going to be having it over here. We're going to do an upper harmonic thingy on the 5, except now we can shape these 2 operators separately to give a totally different tone. In the algorithm before, in algorithm 1, we have everything acting as one chain, but down here we have two separate chains to shape the operators differently. So let's play with that. Starting out, we got operator 1 coming through. Gonna play an F. I'm going to start right off the bat by loading in a pulsar so we can edit this stuff and hear as it goes down. And I'm going to throw it into the 4. No, I'm going to throw it into the 3. And I'm going to throw it into the 5. And let's just get to work. Adding some FM, changing the rate of the LFO to 2.4, leave it at 50 for now. Now, let's FM modulator 3 with modulator 4. Give it a different, give it a little, it's sounding a little harsher now, a little dirtier. Let's bring in 5, but first we have to make it an upper harmonic. Okay. Now let's change the shape of that upper harmonic. So I was just playing with some parameters there with a different algorithm to show you how flexible all this stuff can be. And none of these patches have any distortion, anything like that. This is all just about building those waves right off the bat. So next time we are going to apply all of this inside of Thor, where we have a whole slew of different waveforms to choose from, which can totally shape our sound in a ton of ways that we can with the PX7, because in the PX7 we're only working with sine waves. So I hope that this was useful, and if you have any requests for sounds that you can't figure out and you want to see how they're done, head over to the Facebook page and leave a comment there. That's where we will respond to that stuff. So yeah, party on, and you know, whatever.